thanks so much for being willing to share your story with us. I know I'm excited, and I know what's coming, so everyone else must be on the edge of their seats. Why don't you begin with, Kate, we'll go with you first. Just introduce yourself, course, halls, year.
I am a third year civil engineer.
Clifton or Redland?
Clifton.
Thanks for that. So Toby the same, introduce yourself, course, year.
Hi guys, I'm Toby. I'm also a third year civil engineer. What was your question?
Age? Let's just move on. Clifton or Redland?
Redland.
Okay. And Toby, let's begin with you. What's your highs and lows of your university experience?
Highs. I've got a few. A bit cheesy, but the people I've met some pretty awesome people. Challenged me to grow me as a person and meet cool people. Also band, which was really great, really fun. Loads of highs, lots of pretty stuff. Lows, probably exams. Bit of a classic. I'm not a bad crammer, so a few weeks before exams I'm good.
Kate, the same question. Highs and lows of university experience.
Highs. I'm going to talk about them a bit in what I'm going to say. And lows, really trivial one. When I left the ice cream machine on in Nando's, didn't realise it was like spring loaded. Not spring loaded, so like all the ice cream was like dribbling over the floor. And I just walked away like happily with my ice cream, and all my friends were like, don't do that. And that was
Would have loved to be there. Thanks so much. What is an interesting fact that everyone here in the room needs to know about you? Yeah.
I can see the worm. It's pretty cool.
Lucky for you. There is too many people here tonight, so we don't have the space, but got away with that one. Toby, what's your interesting fact?
So, a few of you might know, but I've got a twin brother at Bristol University, which causes a lot of confusion, probably already has tonight, I think. So there's quite a few stories of people kind of mixing us up, like random people coming up to me in the street, like, oh, we've got a lecture right now, what are you doing here? I don't know who you are. So. The first time it happened, I didn't really realise what was going on, so I thought it was just a crazy person. I got a bit angry, I think, but I think I might have lost a few friends.
Thanks. Sam, can you give us a shout out and we can show you how similar they actually are? Okay, great. Well, let's start with more of the serious questions. Toby, why don't you tell us a bit about your background, where you're from, and what family life was like for you?
Yeah, cool. I'm from a place called Staines, just outside London. You might know it from Ali G, or near Fort Park and Heathrow, that sort of area. So I grew up, had Christian parents, took me along to church, grew up in a really great family, tight unit. So kind of went along to church most weeks, kind of taking my parents, classic Sunday school kids, knew most of the stories, kind of thought I knew it all, I guess.
So what did you think Christianity was all about when you were growing up?
Like I said, I thought I knew it all when I was like 5. I remember one of the teachers saying, oh, I'm still learning stuff about God, and I was like, what? Like, you keep telling me the same stories over and over again. And I think essentially I thought it was a bunch of rules that I needed to follow, and I think at that time I was actually okay with that, because I think naturally I'm quite I want to please people, I want people to think I'm a nice person, so I follow rules and I try and be the good guy, because I think that will kind of make people like me and make my parents happy. I'm doing the right thing, and yeah, essentially got Christianity. There's a bunch of rules that I need to follow to kind of please God as well. Like if I remember worrying if I did something wrong, I wouldn't go to heaven or something. If I got hit by a car or whatever. But yeah.
I will actually come back to you, Toby, a bit later. But Kate, let's turn to you. Why don't you share a bit about your background? It was quite different from Toby.
Yeah, I grew up in a place near Loughborough in Leicestershire. My family are Christians, so I would have called myself an atheist from quite young. I did well at school, like I was good at maths, I was good at science, so thought friends at school who were Christians or got baptised were like really deluded and really weird. Just thought I was clever and I was like work out everything going on. So Christianity didn't make any sense.
Yeah, so you said that you think at school that you didn't quite get it. How did those years impact you? Those school years?
I had a few friends whose parents went to church, so me and my friendship group would go to a youth group, fun and games, and as we got older we do more in-depth kind of like Bible studies, but I just looked to my friends who I thought were Christians to be like, yeah, you answer it, I don't know, I don't care. And I just went for the fun of it. It didn't impact me at all. I didn't think it was true or interesting, just thought, just answer some questions about it.
Cool, thank you. Now turning back to you, Toby. You said before that you thought Christianity was all about rules and being the good guy. When, why, and how did that change?
So I think it started to change when I was kind of going through school. We got a new youth worker at church, so I kind of got back more into church, going to youth group Sunday evenings. Kind of started enjoying it more. And then I was asked if I wanted to get baptised, which was basically saying that I am a Christian, like publicly proclaiming that. And I did think about it, but I think I kind of said yes, I'm a Christian, but still a bit unsure. And we did this course called Christianity Explored, which I think we're actually running, a sneaky little plug. And it was really good kind of leading up to this baptism, thinking about what I was actually doing and why I was doing it. And I think for the first time I kind of realised what the gospel and Jesus coming for us and dying on a cross for us really meant, and actually for the first time it really related to me in my life. It wasn't just this thing. I saw that actually I didn't have to do all this stuff and keep all these rules, because Jesus has come into history, died on the cross, so he's done it for us. And I found that really freeing. I think it took away these classic teenage anxieties of wanting to kind of be this person and living to a certain kind of standard of people and of God that I kind of made up in my head, and trying to say the right things and wear the right things and be a cool, nice person, which actually isn't what it's not worth living for. It's hard to do that, and it's not fun. So I think for the first time I really got the cross and what it meant to me. I found it really freeing.
What particular aspect of the stuff you were hearing about this guy called Jesus really convinced you that it was true and that it mattered?
Yeah, so I think kind of like I was saying, like the freedom and my identity being in Christ and not in myself, knowing that I was kind of tied with him. And I think I'd always kind of had the sense that I believed in God, but it was more of a how is it really relevant to me sort of thing, rather than a kind of I need like the full evidence sort of thing, which is a good thing to look at as well. But
so Kate, you came to university and you were an atheist. How did things change for you?
Okay, so yeah, came to uni, really excited about it. Wasn't a big partier at home, didn't drink much, but coming to uni, found that, yeah, in the societies I was in, that was a way to, gain approval of people, be cool, like climb the ranks of how cool I was in the group, and yeah, kind of seek my identity in being like quite, out of control and quite drunk, and just sort of, that was what I did. So yeah, I thought I was having a good time, and even though that was like breaking down relationships and stuff on the way, and it was pretty dark when someone told me like a lot of people could see that I was trying too hard, and like if I was living for their approval, like I didn't have much else, like, and that was quite a low point.
How did things change?
So 2 years ago, similar kind of time to this, someone invited me to one of these events, and I didn't think much of the conversation, just a normal conversation. And they asked me, what do you think about church and stuff? And I think I didn't want to offend, because I was like, oh, they're a nice Christian. I'll say, oh, I'm on the fence about it, because I don't want to say you're wrong. And then they reminded me of the talk, and I was like, oh, I'll go along, I'll see what you've got, because I didn't have much else at that point. I listened to the talks, but it wasn't hugely like, I was a bit confused. They were throwing out biblical names. I was like, I don't know anything about this. But then I noticed that hanging out with these Christians, that I didn't need to prove myself to them to gain their, that I was like a cool kid. I don't know, like it just felt quite accepted, and I could be myself, and that was quite different. That was quite a culture change for me. So I could see that their lives were based on quite a different foundation to what I'd personally been basing my life on before. Took them a while. They took their hints, like go to church and stuff, and they were. First verse on. This is really random, I'll explain. So I went to church, and they were preaching in the Old Testament this book called Esther, and I thought the Bible was really irrelevant and had no relation to today's culture. And so they were talking about this time thousands of years ago where this kingdom where they were obsessed with wealth and money and pride and worldly pleasures, and that was exactly what I was living for. And then the speaker was just like, does this remind you of anything? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's my life. And they were trying to gain satisfaction in it, and I think that's, and then, I won't read that out to you, but anyway, just someone showing off their wealth and calling their wife over to like prance in front of their friends because she was beautiful and stuff, and just showing off what they had. And I was like, oh, this is all quite relevant. Like people thousands of years ago, like we think we're like really advanced, and like we're still, like personally I was still looking for the same things they were looking for and seeking. I began to think like, okay, I need to look into this. I need to consider the evidence of who this Jesus guy is, because it seems to have changed these people's lives I've met, and the Bible seems to be relevant, and just kidding. I wanted it to be true because I could see these people's lives were changed. But I was like, nah, it can't be true. Don't believe in God. Like, I wanted to find God, but I was like, I probably won't. So I was like to these friends, I was like, I'll look into it. But I was like, no, you're different to me. You're Christians. Like, I'll never be like you. I'll never believe it. Some people are giving me like books to read, and I was like, oh, I've got these 5 books, and I was telling a friend, I'm going to read through these, and they're like, or I just thought when I'd turn the page of the last book, I'd know Jesus, I'd get it. But they were like, well, what are you like searching for, like a sign or a feeling? And like realised that we've been given the Bible, which is like tells us everything about Jesus and everything, so you can look at it and consider the evidence. And so I was like, okay, I'll look at it. And yeah, so it was just like praying. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just chatting. I was like, thanks God for these friends you put around me. Sorry for like the rubbish way I've like treated your creation like this year, and the things you've given me. And just I was like, if you're true, just show me yourself, like. And yeah, so that doesn't mean like bam, like you get it, like it's like yeah. I think. But yeah, I'm just rambling.
No, it's cool. So there was no eureka moment for you, but there was a decision, a moment when you made that conscious decision that meant change for you. What key aspect brought you to think it was true and that it was relevant to you?
I think there's another verse. I don't know. Oh, let's skip that one. That's back to him. Yeah, this isn't something I looked at the time, but this is something I remember reading recently, and this book, Ecclesiastes, is really interesting actually. It's just this guy like ranting about all this stuff he's done in his life and it's not giving him any pleasure. And so, yeah, similar to like what I was doing, like I denied myself nothing my eyes desired, I refused my heart no pleasure, my heart took delight in all my labour, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and just like when I surveyed what I had, like it was nothing, it was like chasing of the wind, like it didn't lead anywhere. And so I think, yeah, so I suppose I just came to God like with that. I didn't have anything here, I didn't have anything to prove to you. And yeah, like because Jesus has done it all, and just need to like accept that. And yeah, I think that was another verse.
Let's just go to the next question. So, some people might think that you've made life a lot harder for yourself than you needed to. Why do you bother, and why is it worth it for you?
Yeah. So, yeah, you may have seen us like in our hoodies and stuff. You see on the back, it says like, I've come that they may have life and have it to the full, and that's what Jesus counts. And like, what does that mean? And I think so. Yeah, if like Jesus did create us and give us life, like He knows how we should live, and I've been trying to live a very different way. And I think He showed me that the most natural way and satisfying way to live is to know how we're designed to live. And yeah, it just kind of gives you freedom from having to live for, like, I was living for the approval of friends, I was living for being popular, and these things, even if you achieve that, don't always stay, or, yeah, so just that whatever's going on, there's a constant, like, there's that foundation that I saw in these people that doesn't change, like, yeah.
Thank you. So Toby, turning back to you, I would love it if you could share with us something that how your life has been impacted since, because with your understanding that Jesus went to the cross and He died for you, and you no longer need to be that good person. How has that changed things? How has that affected specific experiences that you've gone through since?
So I think, first of all, I think it's amazing kind of how God has worked in my life, that through the situations and through everything, that He's brought me to that place that I can know God personally and have a relationship with Him. That's amazing. I think that's a miracle. But at the same time, I think it's not just about that. It's really like as in any relationship, the most exciting bit is the actual relationship. Like you meet someone and you grow that relationship. And I'd say I've definitely experienced that with God. It's not kind of a Sunday thing or just a religious tradition thing, but I just compartmentalise into bits of my life. But it's is something that is in every area of my life and affects everything, affects my character, affects all that I do, kind of doing it for God and kind of not as a rules thing, like I was saying, but out of kind of gratitude and knowing that He's kind of set me free from having to worry about all that stuff that I do, that I can just get on with it and try my best and do it in praise of Him, which is amazing. And yeah, so I'd say it's definitely a holistic thing. But then also there's been particular moments where my faith's been, where I've got to know God better, and where my faith's been a real rock for me and a foundation. I think one of those particular occasions was when I was 18, a couple of days before my last bunch of A-level exams in the summer before uni, and my older brother Joe passed away. He was 23, so it was a Monday night, and we were both sitting in the front room. I was playing FIFA as you do before exams. Classic. And he was having some toast. He went off to play some five-a-side, and he collapsed. He died of an undiagnosed heart condition, which was absolutely shocking. You can't really describe it. It was painful. By far the hardest thing that's ever happened to me. This is a guy I'm probably most looked up to in the world. Probably one of the people I most try to people please. It's a bit ironic, but he taught me to play football. Bought me my first guitar. Taught me to play guitar. This guy I looked up to. That was hard. But I think kind of through it all, I would have thought that I'd be really angry at God. I thought I would be really angry at God, but I wasn't, honestly. Sorry, I really didn't want that to happen. I think facing death so personally in your life, it's like you see what you're up against, what God has brought you out of. I truly believe that Jesus' sacrifice on the cross has rescued us from death, and I think while that was such a painful time, a hard thing, God's showed me what He's done for me almost, and through that time He comforted me. I don't know if there's the verse up.
Psalm 23. I think it was on there.
The Lord's my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. Those are words I really clung onto at the time and since, and I felt that, experienced that, I'd say that like we all have to face up to death. Death is something we all experience, or we will all experience, and may have experienced in our lives, people we know. And I think Christianity is something that provides an answer. I think the only thing that provides an answer to death that can truly say that we have a full confidence that we've been brought to new life in Christ, and we have hope for the future. That's an amazing thing. And I'd say that as a culture we're really rubbish at facing up to it and thinking about it and considering it. We kind of think we're all invincible, I think. I want to challenge you to think about it. And I'd say one of the things that stood out for me as well, like at the time, was the difference in reaction in people who wanted to support. And it was amazing. We had loads of support from lots of people, Christians and non-Christians. But I think the difference in how they could support us and what they could say was something that stood out to me. Like my friends at school would obviously be like really there for me and want to say like, oh, if there's anything I can do, let me know. But after a week or two, like life just went on as normal. I think they couldn't really do anything but ignore it and step it to the side because they had no solution for it, and they couldn't face death because they didn't want to think about it, I don't think. Whereas people in our church family, people we went to church with were kind of there alongside us, supporting us and kind of helping us to see that we have that faith and confidence that death's been defeated.
Cool, thank you. So, Kate, you shared that you probably would agree with me that becoming a Christian hasn't been all rainbows and roses for you. But what joys has being a Christian brought you? And what has kept you going when you've had those doubt moments?
Yeah, it's not. Trusting in Jesus isn't always the easiest position to take because people, as I thought people were people are really weird. So some people, when I first became a Christian, people were like, oh, that's cool, they thought I'd hang around with nicer people, like, Christians aren't any nicer than other people. But when it started changing my decisions and things I was doing and what I was living for, like, people would like back away a bit and be a bit confused. I think the Christian faith that like God is not distant. He didn't leave us in our sin on earth. He like came and rescued us from that. Like stepped into time, and we can see his character and see what he's all about. And I think when you're going through hard times or suffering, you can be like, oh, why is this happening? But like, oh, God suffered and died and felt sorrow and felt pain, and so he's not a God who doesn't care or doesn't want to know. So in that, you can be like, well, if I am, people don't like me for my faith, like, people don't like Jesus, they killed him, like, that's kind of the price you pay to be a Christian, that people may, like in this country, people don't kill you for it, but elsewhere in the world people do get killed. But you have that assurance that death isn't an obstacle, because our own God went through that, so you can trust those promises, like as Jesus was promised to us like thousands and thousands of years before he came, like we know what's to come next, and so you can trust me on that.
Cool, thank you. Just as a last thing, both of you, why don't you leave us with one sentence that you'd like to sum up everything you've said, or anything you'd like to leave people? Kate, we'll start with you.
Let's start with Toby. I think we're all intelligent people here in Bristol, and in science we wouldn't dismiss evidence, but as I did, the Bible is something people would just be like, nah. History's pivoted on Jesus, like our dates are pivoted on Jesus, like, who is this man? Like, even if you investigate him and find him to be nothing, like, at least have an argument for your stance, like I didn't. As I've said, just give it a go.
And Toby, what's yours?
I'd say kind of looking at the flyers and the evening events we got on, like real freedom, real hope, real kind of love and intimacy and relationship and all this stuff that I think honestly when we think about it, we're all looking for in one way or another. I think both me and Kate would say that we found that in Jesus, and I think a lot of other people in this room would say that as well. And I think I challenge people to at least look into it, because if there's that many people saying that, then I don't know, why wouldn't you?
Thank you so much. Thanks guys so much for sharing your stories. It's been really great and we really appreciate it. And why don't you guys take a seat? Okay, so Kate and Toby, can you come up and we've got a few questions for you. Just going to make Toby's mic for a sec. Okay, so Toby, you said that you know God. Do you mean you know about God, or if not, how do you know God?
Yeah, cool. Great question. I think so. The reason I say I know God is because when I talk about Christianity, I don't mean it's like some sort of idea or some sort of kind of philosophy that is kind of just an idea that kind of is vaguely true, but yeah. But I mean that there is a God who's living, who's active, who is working, who has worked in my life, and yeah, that I can get to know. And I'd say, yeah, how would you get to know anyone? This relationship, I get to know him by hearing from him. I hear from him by reading his words. We believe as Christians that the Bible's God's word to us, that we can get to know him through that, and I talk to him as well. I pray to him, so I'm actually the prayer and praise chair at the minute at CU. So I've been loving my prayer recently and looking into it and reading up on it. So whoever asks that question, if you want to catch me afterwards and talk to me more, I'd love to chat to you more about it.
So how do you experience God's love now you're both Christians? What feels different? Toby, I'll go for you first because I picked on Kate a lot.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. How do you experience God's love now you are both Christians? What feels different?
Yeah, so I'd say like being a Christian isn't like you don't just suddenly feel different. It's not like a snap from like I'm suddenly happy all the time. It's not like that. But I think God does work a sense of joy into your life as well, like knowing that, like sticking to those truths. That psalm, what's up on the screen earlier. He leads me beside quiet waters, lays me down in green pastures. Yeah, that one. Yeah, and I don't know, you just kind of some of the day-to-day things, like I sense that, I don't know, like an example, my research project I was quite worried about with me and Will, I don't know if you said, we were building a rig for me to jump up and down on, and we were a bit unprepared, didn't really know what was going on, all a load of stuff, like praying about it because we were quite worried, and all of the wood and everything we were building just about fit into the dimensions that we could use, and it was all at the extremes, and it was all a bit like what something might say lucky, but no, it's just something that I would say was that God has hand in, and that yeah, and I praise God for that, and I love Him for that, and I find joy in that, and just lots of different things. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't a great answer.
What, for both of you, is a practical way you go about reminding that God does love you? He's a loving God. Toby?
I think I'm not very good at it often, but like trying to read my Bible, reading what God's saying to me, and yeah, He'll remind me of that. He'll say that to me in His Bible, in the Bible, and yeah, and kind of I guess ultimately His love is shown to us in the cross, that Jesus, you know, He took on that responsibility for our sin on himself. He was in his rightful place in heaven, but he came down for us as a servant to serve us, and that's his ultimate kind of display of love for us. So, and that's what it's all about as well. So just kind of keeping my mind fixed on that, seeing that those characteristics play out in life and in what I do, and trying to kind of walk in step with what Jesus has done for us.
Kate, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. It's not something I'm great at, but yeah, God's given us His word, and just remembering like stuff from the Bible, and like you can just in a certain situation just like say it to yourself and be like, not that we make everything okay, but it puts everything in perspective. So yeah, just.
Cool. Guys, once again, thank you so much. That's the formal end of tonight's evening. Please do.